You ever been flats fishing and there's a guide behind you on the pulling platform calling out fish in all directions and then ripping on you for not seeing any of them? Well, you might have had inferior sunglasses or you weren't paying attention, but odds are good there were two things going on, neither of which you could be blamed for. Height definitely makes a difference. Not only how far away from the boat you can see objects, but how deep you can see into the water. Many guides and even boat builders nowadays will offer some form of casting platform up front. Either a platform that's buckled to the deck or maybe a sturdy cooler so the angler could stand up and level the view. Now when it comes to sight fishing, there's some important things you need to understand. If you're going out on the water looking for iconic images of fish straight out of an ID book, odds are good you're going to be disappointed. Instead, I break basic sight fishing down into three elements to focus on: shape, movement, and color. Now by shape, we need to understand that water distorts things. So we're not necessarily looking for the perfect outline of the fish that we're hunting for, but rather we're trying to understand how different shapes in the water relate to one another. For instance, you want to train your eye on the conditions around you. Get used to looking at the seagrass clumps, patches of oyster, timber, or little channels and patterns in the water. And then look for shapes that seem out of place, maybe something angular that stands out. That could tune your eye into a fish that's laying in that area. Now by movement, that's another case in which you need to move your eyes around on the water and seeing how different things relate to one another. Look to see if an object seems to be moving away from another object. That might signal a fish. For instance, these mullet behind me that are moving across the sandbar. If I were to take one quick look at those mullet and look away, I'm not going to notice much about them. But if I remembered where they were and I looked again, well, wait a minute, they've moved. That tells me there's something going on. And maybe those mullet will morph into a sea trout or snook if I'm lucky. Now color is something important to talk about, because again, if we're looking for the colors of the game fish we want to find, we might be disappointed. The largest surfaces of most fish bodies are very reflective and even chameleonic to varying degrees. They can take on the color of the water and the looks of the surroundings about them. Instead, you want to focus on certain elements that fish seem to give us. For instance, redfish, you think of the color red, but really many of us are looking for the blue tip on the tail to give away that fish. Permit, a great big silvery white fish. Well, the first thing you might notice in the water is the black dorsal, or even those puffy white lips coming at you. And then for some fish, all we get's a vague shadow moving across the grass flats or a sandbar. That might tell us that there's a snook or a bonefish on the prowl. In short, if you want to get into sight fishing, you've got to wear the right sunglasses, you got to pay attention and listen to your guide. But if you practice and you think about shape, motion, and the right colors to look for, you're going to be a better fisherman.